Welcome to A Ticket to the Fifth Dimension. Now, if you're not quite sure what the fifth dimension is, don't worry. All will be revealed as we go along. If you are already well acquainted with the 5D, I'm sure these stories will feel very familiar to you. A Ticket to the Fifth Dimension is a series of interconnected poetic narratives designed to whisk you away into new realms of possibility. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Quantum Leap, written and narrated by Amy Felicity Robinson. Dedicated to you, because the only reason this story exists is because you have chosen to hear it. Graham glanced down at his wristwatch. The time had come for sleep. He swept the breadcrumbs off his crotch, and then he began to weep. He could still feel her breath on the side of his neck. She had only been gone a week. What he wouldn't do, where he wouldn't trek, if only to hear her speak. Miriam passed both slowly and fast, and the shadow she left in her wake was greater than the tallest of mountains could cast, for it caused Graham's heart to break. And not in a metaphorical sense. It had actually divided in two. Half of his heart would remain in the past, and half forced to face the new. Mondays came and went, Saturdays much the same. For Graham, years well spent, softly whimpering Miriam's name. Until one evening a knock at the door came to raise him from his stupor, quite unaware, when he asked who was there, that this knock would define his future. When there came no reply, he let out a sigh. Damn those neighbourhood kids. A knock once more, then 3, then 4. You useless little pigs. Graham peeled himself off the couch. His 81-year-old legs creaked and groaned as he continued to moan with every begrudging step. As he twisted the lock and turned the knob, what appeared on the other side caused him to question his own perception. Was it he who had just died? A mirror image of his very house. His own eyes stared him right in the face. A reflection so large it reached to the stars. What human could have put this in place? Graham number 2 appeared brand new, less sullen, less broken, less tired. He reached out his hand as if to demand that to follow was what he required. Who are you? What is this? He couldn't have been more confused. Graham, it's me, the you could be. Graham 2, new and improved. Come with me if you wish to live. Graham 1 was far from impressed. And what if I don't? What if I won't? Trust me, it's for the best. As far as he knew, his life was over. Miriam had taken it with her. She was his partner, his keeper, his lover. Without her, he'd simply wither. Step through the mirror. Come on, Graham. There's something I need to show you. Why on earth should I trust what you're saying? You just show up here. I don't even know you. Of course you do, Graham. I'm you. When she died, we were torn apart. I was forced to face the new, while you remained trapped in the past. Graham 1 peered his head out the door and admired the neighbouring house. It was certainly cleaner. Its roof was restored, while his had been home to a mouse. He took one step forward, and then another, until they were face to face. Come on in, my musty old brother. The future is yours to embrace. The mirror didn't shard. It wasn't even hard. He simply stepped right through it. But as he turned around, his own home could not be found. That life was over now, and he knew it. They walked in through the door. Take your shoes off, brand new floor. Graham 1 promptly did as he was told. Could you kindly make it clear why it is you've brought me here? First, a toast to being out with the old. He passed a glass of whiskey, and with a clink they shared a drink. You might need this for what I'm about to say. That portal you've just stepped through, it's shifted everything. You've gone from living in the past to modern day. Look, Graham, I don't blame you for struggling to keep up. The kids these days, they move at lightning speed. That's why we've been connected. I'm here to catch you up, to give you all the info that you need. The first thing I have to tell you is that your life is far from over. Haven't you heard? 80's the new 60. People live much longer now, especially if they're sober. So why did you decide to give me whiskey? To give you a chance to say goodbye to the source of so many tears you've cried. There's no love lost here, believe me. With the amount of pain this beverage caused us, letting go will pull towards us a whole new reality completely. The second thing I have to say, don't let those old legs wither away. Look at me, I'm about to walk the Camino. Who says you can't still have some fun at the ripe old age of 81? Get moving, boy. In no time, you'll feel primo. Graham, too, had made a point. One had pain in every joint. The walk from the kitchen to bed was enough. Add the bathroom and he'd be stuffed. I'm not sure I like where this is going. All that smoke up your ass you're blowing. You really think you're better than me? That wasn't my intention, Graham. I'm sorry. I don't think I'm better than you. I've simply been exposed to something new. Something I've been compelled to share. I've entered your life because I care. I'll try to be a bit more sensitive. I'm new to this, so please forgive. Yeah, righto. I'll give you a go. I'm done with withering. I'm ready to live. Have a seat, Graham. Take a load off. Both the Grahams sat down next to the fire. For Graham 1, that load felt like a ton. For 2, a seat would hardly be required. I suppose you're wondering who's behind this, who set this whole thing up, and to be honest, I'm not quite sure myself. The only thing I know is that this morning when I woke up, I could just sense that someone out there needed help. And then I heard a voice. It told me I had a choice. I could continue on my way, serving myself, or I could take the things I knew and choose to share it all with you, ensuring we could both live in good health. And so at 6 p.m. tonight, I opened my door only to find that my own house stood right in front, reflected back. I gave your door a knock, quite aware I'd cause a shock, but that my mission was to help you get on track. This was a shock to Graham's mind, which had previously been confined to thoughts of Miriam and better days. He'd had not but a care for the world that existed out there. He had given up in oh so many ways. But Graham had also reached a point where the pain within his joints had screamed at him, it's time to make a change. I'd only had that thought not 2 minutes before I heard you knock. Now gee, isn't that strange? Strange, yes, but not unlikely. Have you ever heard of synchronicity? Is that like a coincidence? It's more than that, you see, and it's appearing with increasing incidence. While you've been locked up in your house, with your memories and your mouse, humanity has been evolving, reconnecting, problem-solving. They've discovered that a human thought has power beyond what previously taught, not just affecting what your own mind's eye might see. Your thoughts are projected out. It's been proven beyond a doubt. They participate in the world that comes to be. Like little bursts of light that ripple out beyond your sight and attract the very thing that you intend. We can project out fear and confusion, attracting a world that's full of illusion, or a world filled with love and light and friends. Why haven't I seen this on the news? It's designed to keep you scared and confused, to see your fellow man as enemy. It shows you the horror, the violence, the abuse. You best believe all that affects you mentally. So the intentions you project are those meant to protect you from the very things that you need most. Community, collaboration, a chance to simply connect with more than just the memory of a ghost. Your intention to make a change caused the world to rearrange, and so I showed up, ready to lend a hand. But you'd already heard the call before I had that thought at all. Time also differs from how you understand. We used to think time moved in a straight line, from A to B, a simple design. Well, all that has been scrapped, fake news, a lie. The truth is the moment you're in now ultimately has the power to affect both what came before and when you'll die. The past is malleable, you see. A truth revealed can change the whole scene, but first one must be honest with themselves. For those who live out of alignment with the truth live in confinement, trapping them and others in living hells. Let me give you an example, for this idea can be hard to handle. A mother lies to her son about being adopted. The moment that the truth comes out, his entire past lays on a new route, and from here a whole new future path is plotted. Although it may be hard at first to know the origin of his birth can only lead to freedom for his soul. Not to mention his adoptive mother has a chance to now discover who she is without the lies she's told. But that's not where the magic ends, for being honest also sends a ripple of goodwill from birth to death. Things from the past that were concealed will all of a sudden be revealed, ensuring that your life has added depth. Graham 1 was overcome, for the words 2 spoke had somehow spun a magic spell across both time and space. For years he had sat and wept, having felt responsible for Miriam's death, but the truth of this, something he could not face. I'm the reason Miriam's dead. I was asleep when she hit her head. I'd had too much to drink. It's all my fault. I watched her slip away in that coma, knowing both our lives were over, and to my wounds, I've continued to add salt. Graham 1, I felt that pain. At the time, my thoughts were just the same, but instead of keeping it in, I let it out. And by sharing that truth, what I found was completely and utterly profound. Forgiveness took me down a whole new route. The Grahams poured a cup of tea. This next conversation was bound to be one of great importance, weight, and depth. For all his life, Graham had struggled, constantly worried, constantly troubled, with each mistake impossible to forget. Graham, we all have things we regret, things we'd rather take back or forget. One simply cannot live without mistakes. But we become our own worst enemy when we continually scold, unable to see that we have the power to choose how much it aches. We come into this world an innocent, free from guilt, shame, and torment, a child of God, here to learn and grow. As we walk along our path, we get things wrong and feel the wrath, but that pain should not be held. We can let go. You wouldn't expect a child to know how to walk before they're grown. The same is true of you right up to death. Everyone learns at their own pace. Life's a scavenger hunt, not a race. The key is to keep moving, no regrets. Just make sure that you learn the lesson, avoid stagnation or regression, and life becomes a game and not a chore. As long as we stay accountable, our worth cannot be doubtable. To learn's the very thing we came here for. I understand you've come to lend a hand, but it's not easy climbing out of quicksand. Plus, what would I have to greet me when I get out? Miriam was everything to me. A life without her, I just can't see. That's why I choose not to leave my house. Graham, the possibilities are endless. You don't have to sit here remaining friendless. There's art, there's sun, there's joy, there's love, there's food. I've got an exercise for us to do. I believe it might just help renew your lease on life and free you from this mood. Graham too took out a pen and placed it on the table. He then revealed a map marked with an X. I want you to imagine where this leads. See the treasure, and once you're able, can you list for me each of its effects? That path will always lead to the same place, to Miriam's beautiful smiling face. It's there that I feel whole, complete, fulfilled. So what if I told you that's where you're headed? That treasure is already embedded. The path to get there is simply yours to build. You can take the road that's painful and slow, and once you get there, let Miriam know you lost your strength, unable to go on. Or you can choose to walk a path already whole and able to bask in the love that Miriam sends you all along. She's up there right now, looking down, wishing she could relieve your frown and excited to see what it is that you do next. You're able to talk to her, you know. Listen for her voice, it will start to grow. Graham 1 looked at 2, perplexed. Death is not the end, my friend. It's a change of state designed to send us back to where we came from, to our soul. From this state we can watch on, help our loved ones, right our wrongs, and I know Miriam would love to fill this role. Graham 1 closed his eyes, imagining Miriam, his love, his prize. Then in his mind's eye he said, hello. And in a voice so soft and sweet, he heard her say, without a beat, I'm here, my love. Oh, how I've missed you so. Graham opened his eyes with a shock. Damn near off his chair he was knocked. It's her. She's here. I heard her. The imagination's a powerful thing. as real as the flowers that bloom in spring. This night just went from absurd to absurder. As the fire crackled and danced, Graham felt his second chance start to permeate his mind, his heart and soul. With Miriam by his side, he needn't wither, he could glide, and from this point on, they both had a new role. Once the Grahams finished their tea, two kindly asked, "Any questions for me?" Graham 1 took this chance to ponder. Here was a mirrored version of him, 3 years out versus 3 years in, an opportunity he thought he should not squander. "What is it you view to be the key to your vitality?" "I think the thing it boils down to is courage. It seems to me that this emotion ends up being the magic potion that frees you from the pain, torment, and worries. And in the end, those are the things that weigh you down and loosen your skin, emotions like shame and guilt and apathy. But as you rise on up the ranks, past the grief and fear and angst, it's courage that arrives to set you free. I know it may seem strange, but it's the outer world that sets the stage for everything you see reflected back, including the face you see in the mirror. So take your life force off its dimmer with the bravery to get your life on track. It's from here that things really start moving. They start improving as you find your groove and accept the things in life you cannot change. You listen to the voice of reason, embrace love and joy and peace, and, well, from there, things start getting really strange. Graham wondered why he had spent most of his life plagued by torment, while a whole new world waited for him to greet it. He simply needed to find the strength to look within at deeper length, see his shadow, and not be afraid to meet it. My whole life I've been a grump, a negative Nancy, a lazy lump. Miriam deserved more than what I gave her. But I'm going to try and make amends. No more hiding. I choose to ascend. These last few drops of life, I plan to savor. That's the ticket, Graham, old chum. Get out there and have some fun. Miriam will be proud of the steps you're taking. Oh, I'm sure this is something she's happy to see, but this isn't just for her. This is for me. Graham too took his hand and started shaking. Well now, Graham, our time is up. It looks to me we've filled your cup. Time to get you back to where you came from. I've really enjoyed our time together. If you ever need me, just remember, your imagination is where I took the train from. You mean this whole thing's in my mind? We only had 1 hour assigned. It's time for you to leave. There's no more questions. Graham 1 was ushered out as more and more questions began to mount. Who can I speak to about adding more lessons? You'll have to take it up with the boss. Around these parts they call him Sauce. Now off you go before this setting's dismantled. As Graham 1 walked out the door, he found himself on his bedroom floor, with a pain in his elbow stronger than he could handle. Graham managed to get himself off to the hospital well enough, where Dr. Brooke told him he wouldn't require a cast. Looks like you took a nasty fall. Not uncommon after all the change you're experiencing now that Miriam's passed. But Miriam's been gone 3 years. I've had time to grieve. I've shed my tears. Graham, I think you're a bit confused. Miriam only passed last week. I think that fall may have caused a tweak in your memory and rendered you bemused. Perhaps I should organise a scan. No, you're right. I'm just a silly old man. I remember now. Last week I said goodbye. Graham's mind began to race. Where had he been? What was that place? But to avoid poking and prodding, gave a white lie. What had felt like 3 years began to condense down to a moment, like he'd just been given a glimpse into his future. And as he anchored himself in present day, he knew he had been steered away from a life remaining trapped inside his stupor. Once back at home, Graham sat down and attempted to collect his thoughts. Was it all a silly dream, or was it true what he'd been taught? If I make a decision in the now, does it truly have the power to affect what came before the thought was had? He decided to experiment, to test this outlandish sentiment. At least it would distract him from being sad. Suddenly, the telephone rang. "Graham, it's Ollie. Wanna hang?" Oliver had been his oldest friend. Ollie too had lost his wife. To see a fellow widower might be nice. "Sure, old chum, kind of you to extend." They decided to meet at 3 p.m. at Ollie's house around the bend, when along the journey, Graham's heart skipped a beat. For there on the pavement he saw an engravement that made him stare down in amazement. Graham to meet Oliver at 3. "Ollie, what do you make of this?" "Oh, that's been there for years and years. The coincidence always made me laugh. But hey, looks like it's just come true. Lucky we didn't meet at 2. Graham had been convinced he'd changed the past. Ollie and Graham had a lovely time, reminiscing on days gone by and sharing stories about their respective wives. "You're doing better than I'd expected. You don't seem nearly as affected as I was when my dear Lucinda died. You should have seen me just last week. I was distraught, could hardly speak. But today I'm so much better, it's the strangest thing. It's like I've been set to fast forward, like a ship that's been lifted shoreward, like winter's been cut short and now it's spring. I think somewhere deep down I know I'll see her again at the end of the show, and it's helped me come to grips with what has happened. I've forgiven myself for the part I played, and though I wish she would have stayed, I refuse to let the rest of my time be blackened." As Graham took himself back home, he chuckled to himself at how much he'd grown, then remembered the engraving on the road. If that was true, what else was too? He instantly knew what he had to do. Could he speak to Miriam? He had to know. He sat himself down and closed his eyes. He took a deep breath and cleared his mind, then focused his attention on his wife. Suddenly her face appeared, and when he tuned in, he was sure he could hear her soft, sweet voice cut the silence like a knife. "Graham, I'm here. Oh, how I've missed you, dear. How are you feeling? How's your poor elbow?" Miriam had always been the sweetest soul right from the beginning, when they'd met at just 22 years old. "Miriam, my love, my light, I've missed you too. The elbow's all right. Where are you? How come I can hear you?" "I'm in a realm not far away, but out of sight, and it's here I stay whenever you decide to bring me near you." "Oh, my love, that's such a relief, where I wouldn't trek just to hear you speak." "Well, lucky for you, you don't have to leave the couch." "I know I've been a lazy lump, a negative Nancy, a tired old grump. I'm sorry, I wish I hadn't been such a grouch. But I'm going to turn it all around. A new lease on life has just been found. I only wish that you were still here to share it. Graham, I'm with you all the way, today and every other day. That lease you see, my death has helped prepare it. But please don't let that make you sad. Don't feel guilt. You know I had a beautiful life with you and both our girls. This was just my time to go. But I'm still here, and now you know. It's time for you to go out and see the world." Over the next few days and weeks, Graham made changes, shifts and tweaks to get his mind and body back in form. A change in diet, a physio, a gym pass, some cardio, and within just a few months he felt reborn. Just like Graham 2 had said, before he'd been knocked out of bed, Graham 1 was truly feeling primo. Then suddenly he had an idea, like some great force was pulling him there. He got out his iPad and searched up the Camino. He had never heard of a pilgrimage, but by the sounds of it he'd need courage, for the walk would take him at least 35 days. At 79, this would be a feat. "There's someone there you have to meet," he heard a voice inside of his head say. So Graham took the next 9 months to train for all he might confront. When he could no longer walk, he walked some more. It turned out that this was just what he needed to feel fulfilled, whole and complete, and prove this to the man he was before. He also cleaned and restored the house. He got new floors, removed the mouse, and when he was done, he stood in admiration. He'd seen his house like this before, after he'd had that knock at the door. It had all now birthed from his imagination. He thought of that prophetic dream he'd had 12 months ago, and realized he'd become the man sent back to ease his woe. But he'd collapsed the timeline and got it done, not in 3 long years, but 1, for his future self had shown him where to go. Again his mind went back to time, and the idea it doesn't move in a straight line. A future already written was his to find. But would he have even had the thought to go to Spain had it not been taught? Somehow present, past and future seemed combined. Everything was happening in the now. The present moment has the power to affect both what came before and when you'll die. In his head he heard Graham too repeat the words that spurred his breakthrough. He whispered, "Thank you, Graham," in his mind's eye. Later that night, there was a knock at the door. It was Graham too. "You ready for more?" Only this time he was at least 90 years old. "I wondered when I'd see you again. Well, I'm here, my handsome young friend. There's something about your trip you must be told." "Come on in, Graham, have a seat." Graham too had poured some tea, his house still looking spick and span as ever. They took a seat next to the fire, this time Graham too more tired. "You must hear this today. It's now or never. You're going to meet a woman over there. She's got blue eyes and wavy hair, and when you do, you must ask her to dinner. She has been tasked with delivering a message that when you hear, you'll find impressive, so promise you'll do your best to try and win her." "Try and win her? Is this a date?" "No, it's a rendezvous with fate." "Well, if it's fate, why would I need this warning?" "Ha ha, touché. But you see, this too is fate." Graham 1 felt like his brain had started swarming. "Well, all right then, I'll keep an eye out." "Great. When is it you fly out?" "Tomorrow night I head over to Paris, then train to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, got my tickets and passport. I'll tell you what, I'm feeling pretty jealous. There's something else I'm here to share, to ensure that you are fully prepared. There's angels on this trek, both real and human. Expect some magic along your path, and revel in its aftermath. Oh, and look out for a man named Martin Newman." As Graham's train pulled in at Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, he couldn't believe how far he was from home. "Miriam will be loving this," was his very next thought. "You bet I am," as if she was on the phone. The village itself was beautiful, its magic indisputable. He roamed the streets in awe of everything. At a tiny shop sat on a table, like a sign from his first angel, a travel guide inscribed, "Love Miriam." He arrived at his first pilgrim station to attend an orientation where he was briefed on where to go and what to expect. Though he had some trepidation, courage won the situation, this magic potion achieving its effect. Later that night, when he got into bed, he remembered what Graham too had said about his boss. He believed he'd called him Source. He decided he was ready to ask about signing up for his next class, and then, as clear as day, he heard, "Of course." The first few days were hard but good. He trekked through mountains, streams, and woods, chatting to fellow pilgrims along the way. He relished in their shock and surprise at his fervour to walk at 79, and then he noticed her blue eyes and waves. "Excuse me there, what is your name?" he asked the young woman with the long blonde mane. "Well, hello there. My name is Annie Clark." "Do you mind if I walk a while with you? You'll have to walk with Martin too, but of course, we'll all grab dinner after dark." "Graham, was it?" "Yes, that's right," he told the man in his 50s he was warned he'd sight. "I've heard your name being spoken by other hikers. Your story's a real inspiration. The loss of your wife and your transformation. Annie and I just love it. We're both writers." "I think I may have heard of you. Newman, is it?" "Yes, that's true. You haven't read the buddy system, have you?" "Oh no, I'm not much of a reader." "That's okay. Annie isn't either. I prefer to hear my books in audio." "Did you two come together?" "Oh no, we just met here. Synchronistic though, how our paths aligned." "Since Miriam passed, I seem to be a magnet for synchronicity." "Funny you say that, Graham." Annie smiled. The three new friends sat down to eat. In a town called Astea, they rested their feet and revelled in her sheer, breathtaking beauty. They say a star led settlers here, that a divine energy brought them near. Yes, I would believe that well and truly. As they each refuelled on soup and bread, while Graham hung on every word they said, he could also hardly mask his anticipation. Then Annie looked at him with wonder, like there was a spell she'd been put under, and finally she steered the conversation. Graham, I have a message for you, but I have a question before I continue. Have you ever had someone reveal to you your future? I have indeed, but that person was me. It's the strangest thing, it happens in sleep. Martin, he even told me I'd meet you, sir. Graham, that is your higher self, delivering messages designed to help you reach the timeline of your highest potential. It's not just you this is happening to. Humanity's being birthed anew, evolving at a rate that's exponential. It's a shift in consciousness, you see. Our souls are finally being set free, able to live a life of joy and peace. Pretty soon we'll see the birth of a golden age, a brand new earth, as our collective vibration continues to increase. That's what you have just achieved. You've raised your vibrational frequency, and not just for you, that energy ripples out. You've enabled Miriam to rest in peace, you've put your daughters' hearts at ease, and for many an inspiration, there's no doubt. Graham swept a tear from his eye. He hadn't cried since Miriam died. This very moment had been Graham too's intention. He truly couldn't have been more proud. He thanked his friends and looked around. I feel like I've just entered another dimension. Well, Graham, that's because you have. The fifth dimension, isn't it fab? Graham looked at Annie with bemusement. You're in alignment. You've filled your cup. A whole new reality's opened up. A world built for your higher self's amusement. How about we regroup in the morning? We'll get up as the day is dawning, a chance to clear our minds before we continue. Graham was grateful for this reprieve. He'd let this all sink in through sleep. Then he heard a voice. They've so much more to give you. The three of them set off as the sun rose up behind them, Graham eager to find out what the day might bring. The sights and sounds were breathtaking. He took time to admire them. He was grateful he'd decided to walk in spring. Well, no time like the present. We may as well get started. I'm ready to glean as much as I possibly can. Graham's energy was effervescent, and he was clearly open-hearted. So Annie cleared her throat and then began. Okay, Graham, the fifth dimension, a realm where reality is built on intention, and one that so many have been deprived of. Unaware that every thought they have is reflected back, keeping them sad, with fear and division being all they have survived off. But thankfully, we have entered an age where humanity is moving to the next stage, as the intention for good now outweighs the bad. The effect this is having is monumental. This awakening stage is fundamental, though at times it can feel like you're going mad. New abilities are coming online. Telepathy is on the rise. Communication beyond words or expressions. Meaning truth now reigns supreme, for falsehood vibrates at an energy that most human beings can sense beyond just guessing. We're now understanding the depth of our connection to one another, the earth, the ether, and that reality is more than what meets the eye, that an intelligent force is beneath her. Our ability to manifest that which we need is becoming as simple as planting a seed as we build our faith in the source of all creation. Martin, I spoke to Source myself. He sent you both right here to help deliver me all of this information. Amazing, Graham. That's great to hear. The source isn't somewhere out there. It's here. Martin pointed to his own mind and heart. We can access source wisdom whenever we please, and this can be done with relative ease if we just hold that intention from the start. Graham, we wanted to ask you something. Feel free to decline the request that's coming, but Martin and I have been discussing a new story. A collaboration between him and I, and for the main character, we feel you're our guy. We hope to share all this through allegory. Graham's response was instantaneous, the smiles on their faces simultaneous. His transformation would be for the collective as much as him. An elderly man awakens through sleep. We're going to call it Quantum leap. Well, I'd be honoured. How soon can we begin? Annie took out a piece of paper and laid it on the table. They'd spent the day hearing Graham's story, which would now become their fable. First things first, it has to rhyme, and I feel like the main theme should be time and how we have the power to affect it. How the decisions we make determine our fate, how timelines collapse and it's never too late to turn our lives around if we direct it. We could make it so that Graham knows exactly where his life will flow until he reaches a certain point in the tale. Perhaps the point where he hits the Camino and meets you and I and learns what we know. From there he must surrender and set sail. Graham knew the words that Martin had said hadn't just come from his own head. That message had been delivered from a higher source. As much as he'd enjoyed knowing his future, it was time to let go and trust the producer, to let his highest timeline run its course. Because that's where all the beauty lies, in the unknown, the shock and surprise. To see behind the curtain can spoil the show. Like how opening the oven before it's baked can sometimes ruin the entire cake. It's better to live in the now than in the no. I think ultimately there's another layer to this book that may help promote it. We create a story in which the main characters are also the ones who wrote it. The architect's paradox, I've used this before. It ensures that the reader comes back for more, to see the entire story from a new angle. The ending's not simply a conclusion. Its revelation is a revolution, a carrot that we infinitely dangle. I know what the very first line should be. May the rest of it flow like a river to the sea. Somehow Graham could sense the story was already written. When a master work is being created, like Michelangelo's statue of David, the artist simply uncovers what is hidden.